Hear ye, hear ye. This is the super tale of Murph the Serf. This is a story about how a kingdom's dragons occupied so much of the kingdom's nights that the kingdom was almost conquered by the giants. But it is also a story about how the kingdom was saved by the serfs using the super improvement system to defeat the dragons and free up the knight's time to fight the giants.
Once upon a time, in a kingdom not so far away, and, well, not so long ago, His Royal Majesty the King was losing a lot of sleep. It was a time when empires all over the world were being threatened, and on the very day of which we speak, His Royal Majesty's knights were urgently needed to fight an army of giants who were nibbling away at the fertile lands and riches the king had acquired by years of hard work. Unfortunately, at the very time that the king needed his best knights to help him stay competitive, many of the knights were being occupied by fighting the dragons inside the kingdom. His knights were scattered far and wide and, frankly, accomplishing very little. For, as they forced one dragon into its cave, another would appear as if by magic. And if a knight managed, in rare cases, mind you, to cut off a dragon's head, 3 other heads would grow back where the first head had been. One day His Royal Majesty was approached by a young serf who had long sought to be a knight. He was a most unknightly-looking person, but his appearance had given him the freedom to wander far and wide, to be able to listen unnoticed to the wise ones, to be able to observe the behaviors of dragons, giants, knights, and even the king. He understood that the giants would eventually destroy the kingdom unless the king could get control of the internal dragon problem and refocus the energies of his knights on defeating the giants. And he understood, after hours curled up and hiding beneath the round table, that no one, not even the king, had a good approach to controlling the dragon situation. The young serf bowed low and deep before the king and made his proposal. "I'm Murph the Serf from Monterey, and I've been doing some thinking. If you lose to the dragons and giants, we serfs lose too, because we'll be shipped to misery, and there's no surfing to be found there. We'd all like to be knights and help you with the dragon and giant problem." The king nodded for the young serf to continue. Bending close to the king's ear, he said in a low voice, "We've got a plan. The rest of the surfers and me, we've been practicing, boning up on our dragon lore. Know what I mean? We've got something we call the 5 super steps to cut dragon from the wagon. Will you give us a chance?" Now, it didn't take the king long to calculate how many knights would be freed up if he could get the serfs to take care of the dragons. With everything to gain and nothing to lose, the king gave the young serf his royal approval with one condition. A royal scribe from the nightly news must accompany him to record all that went on. As Murph raced out of the castle, the scribe asked the young serf what he was going to do. "Just stick close to me and you'll learn a lot. Our first step is to select the right dragon to attack." The scribe put his hand to his ear. "What's the first step?" "Selecting the right dragon to work on. Look, not all dragons are equal, right? And besides, I've got a limited number of serfs to work on this, so we've got to make sure we're working on the right dragon. For some time now, we've been following and identifying the dragons, so we already know where most of them are. We've drawn up this rating sheet. See, we've been comparing them. You know, which dragons develop new heads if not attacked just right, which dragons are blocking important paths, that kind of thing." The scribe's quill pen was just about smoking as he recorded this first step. "So then I guess you picked the biggest and most dangerous dragon and go for it, right?" "No, no way! Oh, we'll eventually go after the hairiest and scariest dragon, but we probably won't pick that one first. Don't forget, my surfers have never done this before. We need some practice first, so we'll choose a dragon that's a little easier, one we can control early on." As they approached a group of excited serfs, Murph continues, "Besides, the dragons that blow the most smoke are sometimes just that, all smoke and no fire. Yep, knowing your dragons can mean the difference between being a hero and being burnt toast. That's why we spend so much time on our second step, too, which is understanding as much as we can about the dragons we're going to take on. Did you get that?" The scribe, who had been excitedly writing about smoke and fire, asked Murph to repeat this second step. "Just ask the other surfers. What's the second step in our 5 super steps to cut dragon from the wagon plan?" he called out.
"Understand your dragon,"
the serfs shouted. "So what do we have?" Murph asked. They eagerly gathered around a piece of hide on which someone had drawn a very detailed picture of the dragon and its cave. They shared what they had learned, who and what the dragon ate, and whether it was connected with any other dragons, and how much energy it consumed to produce all that smoke and flame. It was still unclear which paths led up to the cave, so one of the surfers was dispatched to check out the details. As the scribe pushed his way into the circle, he asked,
Just what are you going to do with this dragon information anyway?
Good question, old man. Once we have the basic dragon facts, it will be easy to develop a plan. One of our guys pointed out that if we could tame the dragons, they could be useful in fighting the giants. And once we figure out how much it costs to train and outfit new knights and what the knights could be doing if they weren't fighting dragons, we could save enough armor and money for the king to make us all knights. That's the plan.
Well, it sounds great on paper, but so far all you've done is stand around and talk. Where's all the action, the swordplay, the damsels being rescued, you know, the dragon firefighting?
The scribe actually looked rather disappointed. Murph looked up from the notes he was making. The world's changing. Firefighting's out, planning's in. Good solutions take good analysis and good planning. Much more planning than we've ever done in the past. That's our third step. Planning. Why don't you join us at the round table? We're going to look for ways to tame the dragons and plan our attack.
So your third step is planning? But at the round table, what if the king sees us?
The scribe's voice rose shrilly at the mere thought of it. Don't worry, the knights have been so busy fighting that they don't have time to use it.
Murph's right,
the scribe mused as they reached the top of the narrow stone staircase.
The world is changing, and unless we get control of the dragons permanently, we'll never have time to deal with the giants, and it looks like the serfs might be the best people to do that.
The round table was packed, literally, with serfs of every size and description. Yet the appearance of disorder or disarray was in sharp contrast to their intense concentration as they brainstormed ideas for taming the dragons. And the scribe was only to idea number 11 when a roar of approval rose from the crowd. As I was saying, there have been a lot of studies clearly showing that smoking peasants is messy and dangerous. If we could convince the older dragons that there are simpler, more productive, and healthier ways to live, and if we offered to them some help in kicking the peasant smoking habit, well, I was just thinking, as Murph's voice began tapering off. Shouts of, "Hear, hear, tell us more," came from every side. Okay, here's the plan. Heads bowed and nodded around the table as Murph outlined the plan. Circling the table without finding an opening, the scribe had to admit that the king was certainly brilliant when he agreed to enlist the help of the serfs. With a great cheer, the meeting broke up, and the serfs rushed out of the room and scattered across the kingdom. As the din receded, the scribe was surprised to find himself alone with Murph.
Where did they all go?
They're beginning step 4, the execution step. The scribe interrupted him.
Wait, step 4 is the execution step, but I thought you were going to try to tame the dragons, not execute them.
The execution step means to execute the plan, to carry it out, said Murph. This is where the armor meets the road, so to speak. We've got a good plan, and the king has promised us whatever resources we need. And don't worry, it won't take long. The better job of planning, the less time for execution.
You seem awfully confident, but what are you doing here? I thought you was a leader. It's your plan. Why aren't you out there leading the charge?
Good observation, bad conclusion. In the first place, it's the surfers' plan, and they should have the opportunity to carry it out. Secondly, if I've done my job as their leader, I don't need to be directing everything they do. They're well trained. They all know the big plan and their individual jobs. No, I'd just be interfering. The best thing I can do now is serve as a communication link between the serfs, the knights, and the king.
The king? But that's a scribe's job.
Sorry, old man, but we can't wait for your report. By the time you write it, it'll be medieval history. This is real-time stuff. We've been keeping the king informed all along. We need a fast, accurate communication. Wait, here's some news even as we speak. And sure enough, as the two stared out the window, a cloud of dust on the horizon quickly took shape into a picture the scribe would never forget. Racing down the lane, cheering wildly and waving his sword, was a serf riding the back of a dragon. And within minutes, other serfs appeared, some with singed hair or smoking pants, but all cheering madly and all riding the backs of dragons. As word of this victory spread throughout the kingdom, cheering crowds poured into the streets. By the time Murph and his surfers were able to make their way to the castle, the king and his whole court were waiting for them. Bowing low before the king, Murph introduced the serfs. As the serfs recounted their heroic deeds, the king pronounced them knights. The king then turned to Murph the Serf and asked him to kneel. You've clearly shown all of us the value of the 5 super steps to cut dragon from the wagon. I decree that henceforth all my subjects will receive training in the 5 super steps. Your Majesty, with all due respect, our job is only 4/5 complete. We cannot forget the 5th step. Review results. We've tamed the dragons, but we must keep an eye on them, or they may get out of hand again. and in your great wisdom, you know that there are many other dragons yet to be tamed. With all humility, I ask that you appoint me Minister of Continuous Improvement. Give me the freedom to roam far and wide throughout the kingdom, improving the lives of our people and engaging them in taming the dragons." With a twinkle in his eyes, the king laid his sword on Murph's shoulder and proclaimed in a voice filled with much hope for the future, "Arise, Sir Murph the Super Serf. This task you humbly choose. Wherever dragons raise their head, the 5 steps you will use. Select and understand your foe before you leap in haste, or the best plans, Sir Murph my serf, will surely end in waste. Then execute your well-laid plans. You've shown us you can do it. And don't forget you lose your gain, Murph, if you don't review it."
Please go to our website at epictransformations.com for more information. Thank you.